G'day guys, welcome back to the channel again. In this episode I'm jumping onto the XA GT replica bonnet and we're going to continue by deskinning the bonnet, hopefully that goes okay, and then doing some rust repairs on it. So on this here, on these original bonnets, when you look really closely you can see that the factory spot welded them on this side, and it should be just a matter of drilling out these spot welds, folding that lip back over again and then lifting the frame out, in theory. And then along the front there's obviously going to be spot welds there, which is probably a little bit hard to see at the moment, but maybe if I shine a light on there we can pretty much see the little indentations of the spot welds, so I'll drill them out as well. Yeah, and then we can, once that's done, we should be able to peel her off, as I say, and we can work on these areas that have rusted out. Are we going to do little patches? I don't know. Or do we chop the whole thing off, put the front of a new bonnet on? Let's just wait and see. Let's get the skin off first. So I'm going to try to see if I can unpeel that. First of all, I've got to get it started, but I do have a tool here that I bought off Amazon, and that's this deskinning tool. But yeah, basically goes on there like that. Yeah, you've just got to get it started. But I think I need to peel it away, especially where the spot welds are, so I'll start that. Well, there it is, guys, and looking at that pretty much makes a bloke glad that he took it off. It's a mess, covered in surface rust, a lot of pitting, and the frame also. Yeah, shocking. And this is probably what a great deal of these old 70s Falcons, or not even just anything that old, is going to look like if you don't deskin it. So now that's done, obviously it looks pretty ratty along the edges here, but I'm sure that I can fix that up. Before it goes back on, I'll probably just hammer and dolly those a little bit flatter and just do my best when I go to fold it back over. But yeah, look at all this old stuff on here. Amazing. So obviously this skin is going to be sort of delicate. I'm going to have to be careful with it. All I know is that we need to get it cleaned up and get all of these issues with rust fixed in the front of this. Like I said, this other bonnet that I've got over here is a spare. It's rusty in all the other places, but the front section is good. So I'm not talking about the skin, I'm talking about the frame. So I have been wondering if I actually section it straight across the easy points, it would have to be in exactly the right place. But it might be a hell of a lot quicker than trying to individually fix all of these. In which case, even to fix all of these, I'd be moving 3/4 of that front section anyway. Yeah, and then joining it up again. Anyway, I'm going to get this thing cleaned up, or get the skin cleaned up, and then we'll take it from there. Alright guys, so I've got this bonnet stripped as in the shell or the skin off the frame, and I took it over and used the little pot blaster on it. I mean, I wanted to be pretty careful because sandblasting just an open skin like that, you just warp the hell out of it. And yeah, look, it's not the best, and it has, I'm pretty worried that it actually has warped, because I see the corners sort of drooping, but when I pull them up and go like that, it comes right. Oh look, you're not going to know until you get it on the frame, I guess, but at the end of the day, I'm just using what I have, and what I have is not very good. Yeah, okay, so you can see that there's a bit of a brownish haze, a little bit of remnants of the surface rust. Because I was using the pot blaster, I was trying to be light, you know, I was trying to just get the heavy scale and stuff off. What the plan was is I was going to pour 15 this. Pour 15, you can actually paint it straight onto, you know, rusty metal. I did, but what I've done here is I've tried to get rid of, you know, 90% of the rust, and if there's a few little specks here and there, I don't think it's going to be a problem if I put a couple of coats of pour 15 on there. Anyway, the only other thing is I ended up finding Swiss cheese in both corners. So you can see on that corner over there and this corner here that it's pretty much blown away. And one way of sort of, and also there are pinholes along the front of it. Best way to see them is if I shine a light through. So those holes are for the you know, for the letters obviously, but those are pinholes. So what I'll do, I've already pinholes there, so what I've already done here, I've actually gone ahead and put some weld in those pinholes, and you can actually fill them up quite easily. All you got to do is turn the amps down on the welder, and I turned mine down to about 13, if that makes any sense to anybody, and just go ahead and just fill them up one by one. Obviously in these corners where it's totally trashed, like Swiss cheese, I'm not going to try and fill that up. I'll just cut a patch and put them in there. But just along the front there, it didn't seem to be worthwhile patching, and just go ahead and fill the pinholes. So I'm going to go ahead and carry on filling up pinholes. Once that's done, I'll just plenish them off a little bit, and then I'm going to give this thing a couple of coats of pour 15, and then it'll be to work on the frame. So the frame is trashed also, the whole front of it is rotted out, but what I'm going to try to do, if we come over here to this brown bonnet that I was using to initially test my, my dye on, along the front here, you notice this bonnet's all completely rotted out, the frame and the skin, but if you have a look at this front section, it's really weird how the front of that frame all the way along is quite solid. So I'm going to figure out a way to see if I can take what's good there and splice it into this one. So that's what we'll do next. No, this is what we'll do next, and then we'll jump onto that. Alright, so I have gone ahead and cut these corners out from there and found this little bit of leftover floor pan, which is kind of handy because I did need a bit of a curve, and there you go. So I should be able to, yeah, I should be able to get both of those out of that, just. So I'll go ahead, mark them, cut them out, and get them tacked into place. Alright, so I've got these patches just tacked in. Got a little bit more gap along that top part than I wanted, but never mind. I'll just slowly, you know, build my tacks up on that. I don't want a whole bunch of distortion. This bonnet is going to be lucky if it comes out looking any good as it is without me putting a whole bunch of heat distortion into it. So what I think I might do is flip it over and work on it from the top side. That way I can, you know, obviously plenish it a little easier from that side, and yeah, a whole bunch of other reasons too, which I can't really think of right now. Now I've got the patches all welded in, got them plenished off nicely, and I'm ready to do the pour 15. That's about it. I'll grab my paint and we'll start painting. Alright, so I've left this overnight and the pour 15's all dry now, and it's a nice sort of a satin black finish. And I've just gone around the edges obviously with the weld through primer, so that is already pretty much to be ready to start fitting to the frame. However, the frame is buggered. So there's plenty of rust spots in there, and yeah, my plan was to not bother trying to repair those, but rather just cut the whole section off and replace it with this one. Now this bonnet is the opposite. If you look here, from that front section backwards is completely rooted. It's rusted out, the skin is no good, it's got holes in it everywhere, and the frame itself, yeah, completely gone and just not worth the trouble. So oddly enough, it's all solid along the front, which is where they typically rust out. So yeah, I don't know, I seem to be met with interesting challenges all the time here. So I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to mark this on both bonnets so that I can get like an identical match, so to speak, and yeah, replace that top edge with this top edge. Right, so ready to put it on. Now what I did is obviously measured exactly the same places, 10mm from that hole, 10mm from that hole, 30mm from this hole to there, drew a straight line, but on the ends I was a little concerned about getting that right, so what I did is I made one go that way, the other go that way, so I ended up overlapping. Now if I just put this on with, say, the thickness of a cutting disc, I should be in the right place, you would think, or in the ballpark. So I say that's a cutting disc there, that feels okay there. I'm going to whack this on, like so. And then this one. That's just too small. So that's overlapping, and just give myself a cutting disc width. I'll tack it up and I'll set the skin on just to check. If I have to fill a gap, I have to fill a gap. What's the big deal? I want you on top. Yeah, there you go. That's probably opening up because of the weight of these. If I just, maybe not, I don't know. Look, what does it matter? Yeah, see, if I just do that, and then with my third arm, I'll just weld it. Gonna have to watch this. Yeah, I'll turn my temp down. I think what I'll do is I'll put it on time lapse, and then I can just get on with it. Alright, job done, and I think it worked out alright, much better than trying to fiddle around trying to patch that thing. I would have ended up patching 90% of it anyway. Yeah, it was worth it. Come up pretty good, won't need too much in the way of filling or anything. Maybe in a couple of spots there'll be a thin skim of it, but yeah, pretty good. So the skin is ready, the frame structurally is ready, but I'm going to take it outside and blast both sides of it. And yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll blast both sides of it, and then on the underside, which is covered in surface rust, but once that's blasted, I'll give it a coat of the POR 15 as well, and then once it's all dry, should be able to match the two back up together. So happy days. Alright, so I've got this frame all epoxy coated on this side, and then on the inner side I actually gave it a couple of coats of the POR 15. And I've set it down just doing a bit of a trial fit, but I've decided that I'll probably end the video here because I'm pretty sure that I want to put those those locking pins in. And so I found something on eBay, here's a picture of it here. which is basically the little cone. We'll have a look at this old bonnet and I'll show you. So it's just this little cone thing that gets tacked into place, and I'll see if I can turn this over and show you how it's actually meant to go. So I don't know how good that's going to show up on the camera, but if you have a look, if you have a look, that you can see that there's a seam. So obviously they cut a hole in this and then they press like about a 5mm edge inwards, and then they tack weld that cone on the back. So somebody's reproducing those cones. I've ordered one off eBay, and when that arrives, then I'll go ahead and figure out how I'm going to do the pressing. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, so kind of a lot more work than I wanted to do on this bonnet, but it was kind of like a challenge to try to see if I could somehow use this thing, like save it, reuse it, or whatever. Yeah, so hopefully we can. All right, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.